Woof, these are really old and faded too. This was my first thought, moments after I entered the gym, even before I gathered my bearings. It was like a sudden heavy downpour, or as though a door had suddenly opened and someone had thrown a bucket of water through it without looking to see if there were anyone outside. Who then was now revealed? From whence came this sudden rain, this bucket of water, drenching me so unexpectedly? As I looked at my battered old shoes, the words Namo Buddhaya Jai Bhim tattooed on my right forearm caught my eye. The tattoo started slightly above my wrist and ended just below the elbow. A long time ago, my father had this tattooed on both our arms at a Chhat celebration one year in our village Bihar's Gaya district. I was only 10 then, studying in the 5th standard at a government primary school in Delhi, where my father worked as a watchman on the government payroll. Back then, such jobs had not been outsourced to contractors. Oddly, whenever I went to such places as this gym, I always became self-conscious about this tattoo, as I did today about my shoes. The gym was just about 100 yards from Khan Market, a grand gym as ostentatious as the market, shaped like a half moon and lit by night with all the full moon's luster. Sujan Singh Park, where resides the renowned author and journalist Khushwant Singh, lies on one side of the market. On the other is Lok Nayak Bhavan, an 11-story building with a jumble of government offices. On the third side is the Ambassador Hotel, reminiscent of colonial times under the British. Finally, on the fourth side is Prithviraj Market, which mostly houses car repair shops or other small stores that sell everyday necessities. After the grandeur of Khan Market, the lackluster Prithviraj Market seems as insignificant as a tattered leaf. The gym was right at the end of Prithviraj Market, at the corner of a service lane. A line of bungalows belonging to government officials and other VIPs started there. This was part of Lutyens Delhi, maintained by the New Delhi Municipal Corporation, whose billboards exhorted me to keep the area clean and tidy as I parked my scooter outside the compound gate. There were about 20 cars parked there. A few had drivers milling around and chatting together. Some were dark-skinned, some wheatish, and one or two had a fair complexion. Among the cars were Accords, Honda Cities, Chevrolets, and Swifts. The cheapest was a Hyundai Sentra. Strikingly, there wasn't a single Maruti 800 among them, a poor man's car now relegated to the bottom of the pile. The matter of the drivers' complexions and the makes of the cars was another thought that sneaked in like a thief through the back door of my mind. However, this thought didn't jolt me as much as the first because it was a matter that remained outside the gym door. Out here, we were all the same, equal. Their cars didn't matter to me, nor did my scooter concern them. It was the vast, sweet ocean of anonymity in which there was not a chance of getting salt in my eyes. This was the alluring and magical charm of the metropolis. It was intoxicating and lethal, like Vishnu in the guise of the seductress Mohini. Lethal? My mind hesitated a moment. Yes, it's undoubtedly lethal. But what is to be done? Shaking off an involuntary shiver, my mind slowly recovered. This is why I tease my mind, calling it an amoeba. Even when it is broken to pieces, it assumes a new shape again. Or sometimes in praise, I call my mind Rakta Bija, at which it can't contain its joy. My mind doesn't like being called an amoeba. But Rakta Bija, oof, that's a name it could kill for. For rather than a shapeless amoeba assuming a new form, it acquires the stature of an avatar of Rakta Bija, the demon king who spawned demons in his own image at every drop spilt of his blood. This fills my mind with pride, making it sway and dance to itself for a while. I suddenly smiled. Hello. A young man seated on a throne-like chair saw my smile and greeted me with one in return. Hello, I answered him readily. Between me and the youth on the chair was a small rectangular table with a Lenovo laptop and a fat register. His fair-skinned face glowed with the sheen of wealth and bore a long, sharp nose as a mark of his lineage. He wore a blue branded shirt and had gleaming white Reebok shoes at the end of his outstretched legs. Under the table, my shoes faced his. They had lost their original color some time ago. Only a faint green tinge remained now. My mind was drawn to them again because of the dazzling glare of his sneakers. Really, these are quite shabby and faded. I drew my feet back and put some distance between us. The young man got up and stepped forward to shake my hand politely. Would you like to sign up? A gold bracelet dangled on his wrist. At least 40 grams, I'd guess. Absolutely. I took his hand a little hesitantly. What are the fees? He looked about 17 or 18 years younger than me. He must have been barely 23 or 24. But he thrust his hand forward with such self-assurance that I couldn't stop mine from meeting it. As I put my hand forward, I suddenly remembered my tattoo, and as best I could, I turned my arm in such a manner as to hold it downward. He wasn't paying attention anyway. Please, have a seat. He pointed to a chair and sat down himself. Thanks, I said as I seated myself opposite. Are you in government service? Why? His question came as a surprise. He elaborated. Well, we operate under the corporation's Residence Welfare Center. They put out a tender and it goes to those who offer better facilities at lower rates. This is a government employee's neighborhood, so we offer them a concession. I was reassured by his explanation. He didn't find anything out of place in my attire or my manner. He was just asking for business purposes. Yes, I am. Sir, the monthly fee is $1,500 and the registration charge is $500. He pulled a form out of a drawer. We'll charge you every 3 months. It's a quarterly fee. That's quite expensive, I muttered to myself, but kept my demeanor such as to suggest that it made no difference to me. My gaze turned to the long gym hall where 3 LG split air conditioners were at work. I had to remonstrate with myself. 1,500 rupees, an expense of 50 rupees a day? No, it's not an expense, it's an investment in my health. Would you like to start today? His voice was exceedingly gentle. Yes, absolutely, I would like to start today. But anyway, who walks around with so much cash nowadays? I smiled. It felt like a huge expense to incur to maintain my health. No matter, sir, we also accept credit cards. He took a small machine out of the open drawer and set it on the table. What do you charge other people? I couldn't stop from asking. It's $2,000 per month for them, $6,000 for 3 months. The registration fee is the same. I noticed a young woman on an exercise bike. Her face was abloom with evidence of her high birth. She definitely couldn't be a government servant. In her black Nike shorts, her strong calves and muscular thighs looked attractive and motivating. She paid her surroundings no heed whatsoever. She was in her own world, pedaling the stationary cycle. She wore snazzy sports shoes, but she was too far away for me to see the brand. On the other side, a middle-aged man and a young girl were walking with long strides on their respective treadmills. The floor of the treadmill was like some kind of road running on electricity. Suddenly, the girl increased the speed of her treadmill and started jogging. Your name, sir? He asked, his pen pointed over the column on the form. Subhash Kumar. I wanted to add Paswan, but desisted after a moment's thought. Is that it, sir? Any surname? He asked casually. His eyes were still on the form. Is it necessary to put down a surname? Anger suddenly colored my voice. This was a completely foolish, unjustified reaction. I looked again at my shoes. I had bought them 7 years ago. They were quite cheap. I got them for 450 rupees at a Columbus Company sale. No, sir, it's not necessary, he smiled. Your designation, sir? Undersecretary. I took the ID card with the Government of India seal from my pocket and placed it on the table with pride. He didn't ask me anything else after this. He filled out all the form's columns with information from the card. You've become undersecretary at quite a young age, sir. His voice was deferential. What do you mean young? I am 40 plus. I thought of the assistant who had joined service with me and had only made it to the rank of section officer. But even this could happen only because of reservations and promotion. Otherwise, those in higher positions would have made us run around in circles. Why can't our people manage to land unreserved posts even today? 40 plus, really, sir? You look around 30. He was flattering me, but friends too had often told me the same. What's your name, brother? My self-confidence had grown as we discussed my age and rank. Rahul Upadhyay, he answered softly. You may call me Rahul, sir. Okay, I will, Rahulji. After all, you are my trainer. I laughed and he smiled too. Then he took my credit card, swiped it in the groove of the machine, and deducted the amount. After a moment, the machine spat out 2 slips. Rahul gave me one, and attached the other to the form after taking my signature. Sir, first go and run slowly around the lawn to warm your body up. Afterwards, do 10 minutes of cycling. Rahul motioned toward a vacant cycle next to the young woman. I exited the gym hall. It was warm and humid outside. It was the 5th of July, but so far there had been no sign of the monsoon. I hadn't felt the heat 15 minutes earlier when I had come to the gym. Maybe the chill of the air conditioning had made the air outside seem more oppressive. I started walking slowly and at the same time inspected the premises. The compound had a big gate onto the road, along which several patrons had parked their cars. Extensive lawns flanked both sides of the entrance. A path had been laid down around the perimeter, and I was now walking on it. A Ford Endeavour was parked behind the gym. I picked up pace and started to run. My breathing became heavy. Then I went back inside. "Now do the cycling," Rahul said as he saw me. The young woman was still cycling. I made every effort not to look at her muscular calves, but I got a peek a few times anyway. I started cycling alongside her. She got off after a couple of minutes and disappeared. As she left, I thought again of the shoes. Had she noticed them? Because they were so old, their green had become quite faded and dingy. In one place, some of the stitching had come undone. "Have you ever exercised before?" Rahul came and stood by my side. "A long time ago." "Where?" "Here in Delhi," I said, and went quiet. What could I tell him? That I used to exercise in the JJ Colony Park in Mangaloy, where dogs, goats, and even pigs often perform their own gymnastics? However, Rahul didn't ask anything further. "Whose Ford Endeavour is that behind the gym?" I was trying to change the subject because often conversations that start with "where do you live" and "what's your surname" ultimately end with the inevitable, caste. I was always trying to avoid arriving at that point. "It's mine, sir. I live in Madhuvihar." "Very good. Your own car, your own house?" I smiled. "No, sir. I don't have a house of my own yet. I rent my flat for 20,000 rupees a month." "That expensive?" "Yes, sir. Rates have skyrocketed since the arrival of the metro. Everyone's Punjabi in our apartment block." I could see he was heading in the same direction again. I turned my attention to my shoes once more. "Are you also Punjabi, sir?" he asked, most inconsequentially. "Here we go," I muttered to myself. I didn't answer. I figured he was trying to get at it in a roundabout way. "Sir, you use Kumar for a surname, don't you?" "That's why I asked. Many people in our apartment block use this surname too." He smiled and walked away. There seemed to be something behind his smile, but there was nothing I could do about it. Then I asked myself why I was always so guarded, so vulnerable, and so aggressive when it came to caste. I returned home but couldn't shake off my unease. I told my wife and children about it. My daughter suggested I put cherry blossom black liquid dye on them to hide the real color so they look new. My son said I should buy a new pair. I preferred my daughter's advice. "That's thrifty," I said, pretending to agree in their presence. But the truth was I didn't want to change the shoes. I wanted to prove that they were still serviceable. I went out for a walk after dinner and bought 2 bottles of dye. I got busy that very night, and after an hour's hard work, the shoes were turned black. They'll dry by tomorrow, I thought, and went to bed. When I awoke the next morning, my first thought was of the shoes. I got up and went straight to the veranda. I touched the shoes and found them still wet. When I returned that evening, I saw the shoes had dried, but there was no gleam to them. I took an old cloth and started to shine them, rubbing vigorously. Then I thought of shoe polish. I applied shoe shine with a brush for 10 minutes, but the soles were still light green. Seeing me thus engaged, my wife said, "Take them to the cobbler, he'll give them a good shine for 10 rupees. I put the shoes in a polythene bag and went to the cobbler's stand. He wasn't there. A vegetable seller nearby said that he'd left at 6. I looked at my watch, it was 7. I shouldn't have come to a cobbler to get my shoes shined anyway. Rather, I should buy an expensive polish from the Woodland showroom in the market and try that. I walked to Woodland and bought the costliest black polish I could find. I wasn't in the mood to go to the gym, but I talked myself into it anyway. "Hello, sir," Rahul greeted me as soon as I entered. I smiled too and said hello. "What should I start with today?" "First, do 10 minutes of cycling, followed by 10 minutes on the treadmill at a brisk pace." I sat on the cycle and started to pedal. As each pedal rose, I looked at my shoes and told myself that no one else was paying them any attention. Everyone was absorbed in their own exercise. Putting everyone else out of my mind, I started cycling. I then did a brisk walk on the treadmill for 10 minutes. I was a little tired from 20 minutes of continuous exercise. I sat down on a bench at whose head was a long rod holding several heavy iron plates. I lifted my foot and rested it on my thigh. I found this relaxing, but suddenly my anxiety reared its head again, and my shoe was now in everyone's line of sight. I immediately put my foot down. After that, Rahul had me do the butterfly exercise, and it really wore me out. I returned home before my hour was up. The next day, I decided to first polish the shoes thoroughly and change their color and go to office only after lunch. The sole will lose its original color only after 2 or 3 rounds of polish, I told myself, and applied 2 further layers. The old color was there still, though faintly. But yes, there was something new about the shoes now. In the evening, I was back at the gym. Even after cycling, the treadmill, and the butterfly exercise, I wasn't feeling tired today. Little by little, you'll build up stamina, sir, Rahul explained when I told him. What's new? Sir, today let's do a thigh exercise. I then lay on an incline above which there hung several heavy weights that you had to lift with your feet. He first demonstrated it to me and told me to do it. Good, sir, he encouraged me when he saw me doing it right. He must surely be looking at my shoes. There's still some green on the soles. Each time I lifted the heavy plates, my shoes caught my eye and grated on my nerves. I reasoned with myself about the futility of my worry. Different colors, sir. A boy, 17 or 18 years old, exercising on a bench press nearby, said smiling as he looked at my shoes. Bastard, I muttered inwardly. However, in the next few moments, I composed myself again. No, he doesn't mean to be sarcastic. He's just a boy, and he must have said it to tease me or to strike up a chat. I calmed myself and made no reply. Being reserved is the greatest strength of all, I told myself, and felt quite reassured. A few more days passed like this, but I now felt apprehensive of someone commenting on my shoes each moment of every hour I spent in the gym. Finally, to be free of this, I took myself in hand. This is it. I should neither hide from them nor be ashamed of them, I told myself firmly, and found unprecedented joy and strength in the thought. I was now doing every kind of exercise and had yet to be questioned by anyone. The best support is to make oneself strong from within. I had come to accept my shoes. After 15 days of daily workouts, my health and what's more, my self-confidence began to improve. Sir, do the bench press today and this will make your chest muscles strong, Rahul advised after having me do a half hour of exercise. Will it be all right at my age? I asked doubtfully. Absolutely, sir. Let it be, brother, I don't want another worry. What if I get a pain in my chest? Not to worry, sir, your chest will expand. You've got a slouch. Are you sure? What if I end up being forced to rest and have to go on leave? I wanted to puncture his enthusiasm. Don't you worry, I'll get you started with some light weights. Now go ahead and lie down on the bench. Just as I was going to lie down, my mobile rang. Veer Singh Jathav's name was flashing on the screen. He was a colleague from another ministry. Our offices were in the same building and we held the same rank. Jai Bhim Jathav Sahab, I said in response to the Jai Bhim he greeted me with. Talking on the phone, I walked out of the gym. We spoke for a brief while. When I finished, I turned to find Rahul standing behind me. Okay, so he heard me saying Jai Bhim. Well, I don't care about it anyway, I said to myself. Sir, you're a Jai Bhim wala too? Rahul came close to me and whispered. Certainly. I was emboldened by his saying too. Sir, I'm Rahul Valmiki. My grandfather had changed my father's surname, saying it was Buddhist. I am a Buddhist, sir. He pulled out a locket hanging hidden inside his shirt and showed it to me. It bore a small figure of Lord Buddha. My grandfather was a 4th-class employee in the Delhi police, and my father retired as sub-inspector in the same service. Nice to meet you here, I shook his hand. My eyes went once again to the gold bracelet around his wrist, and to his fair skin and high nose. Finally, I turned to his gleaming white shoes. This one has changed his shoes, I thought as I looked at my own dyed ones. Suddenly, my eyes fell upon the tattoo on my wrist. Namo Buddhaya Jai Bhim. Oof, these old and discolored shoes can always be changed, but this tattoo, it has seeped, drop by little drop, into my consciousness and has permeated my entire being. Oh, this tattoo.